But, man, they got Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, that happened, right?
Yes.
I haven't seen details on it, but that happened. I mean, I love this because we go into the offseason and we're talking about the needs for this team. And there were obvious needs they had to address when it came to the secondary. There were obvious needs when it came to the backup quarterback. I mean, that seemed like it was a screaming need. And when free agency came and went, the first big wave of it, the Lions weren't in on the quarterbacks, or at least they didn't sign one at that point. I think that Bridgewater had come through the camp at that point for the first time. Yeah. Or at least they discussed with him. And he did not leave signing a contract. So he was still out there. And we get through the draft and, some mini camps here and there. And we're like, okay, so what needs to happen now? Well, they still have a need for the backup quarterback. We're hearing good things about Sudfeld, which you'd only expect. You're not going to hear bad things about it. But we're still waiting on it. And then the news came, what was it, a month ago, 5 weeks ago? Hey, Teddy Bridgewater came in. And in the way that Dan Campbell addressed that situation led me to think that they're going to get him, because you don't normally hear a coaching staff talk about a pending free agent signing. They don't talk about him specifically. They're talking generalities. And he said, specifically talking about it back then, we went open and honest with Nate about this and what we'd like, and there's a lot to like with Teddy Bridgewater, and they hadn't signed him yet. And that's the kind of language they were using. So it was just a matter of time, right? Iron things out, wait and see if other opportunities arose for Teddy Bridgewater heading into training camp, first week of training camp. Okay, no major injuries to quarterbacks. I can now decide where I'm going to go.
I'm a little surprised he didn't wait longer. I thought Teddy Bridgewater, the only hesitation that and you just mentioned it, is he's looking for a starting job. And even if he's not ready to go for week one, if somebody gets hurt in one of these preseason games, somebody gets hurt in the next 3 weeks of training camp, like Joe Burrow did. I mean, when Joe Burrow went down, Teddy Bridgewater's agent must have been on the phone with the Cincinnati hospital trying to get them immediate update to find out how serious this was.
Exactly. And then they find out that he'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And then okay, well, what do I want to do? We'll look at all these opportunities. I think if you're a quarterback and a veteran quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, there comes a point where you're like, I got to get somewhere because I got to bury my nose into a playbook. It's not easy to, to understand and decipher all this stuff. I got to learn it as fast as I can, and I got a short window.
I guess Dan Campbell said this morning that one of the advantages of Teddy Bridgewater, he's played in so many systems, and he was in New Orleans when Dan Campbell was there, that he has familiarity with everything the Lions are doing. He just needs to get the verbiage. And he said he'll bury his head in the book and he'll be ready to go. And I think he could have waited. I mean, look, I'm happy as hell. Don't get me wrong. I'm just
sound upset.
Well, the funny thing is you texted. Was it you or Kang? It was you, right? That texted the Teddy Bridgewater signing. No, it was Kang. My bad.
I think I was ready to. I was literally trying to hook up the link from X.
Suffice it to say,
to let everybody know,
I was ecstatic and pleasantly surprised, because I would have expected Bridgewater to carry to just have the long runway waiting for someone to get hurt. There's 32 teams. All it takes is one injury to one starter, which I suspect somebody's going to get hurt over the next month.
Yeah, I was happy to see it, and I'm curious when we're actually going to see him playing. I can't imagine he's not going to play on Friday, but
no, it's next week. They said he'll be in uniform next week.
So, how does this affect the quarterback room? I mean, it doesn't right now. They have 4 quarterbacks available at practice, and then there's Hendon Hooker. So I imagine we're going to see a lot of Martinez and Sudfeld on Friday night. Mm-hmm. A little bit of Jared Goff, but you got to balance all this. Do you feel with this signing? Do you feel like you can run Jared Goff a little bit longer in games 2 and 3 if you need to, or no?
No.
I mean, he's been in the system. He knows it. So it's like,
no, quick to answer.
Right. But it's the right answer, I think. I mean, because it's like, right. Well, no, games 2 and 3, I'm expecting a lot of those reps to go to Teddy Bridgewater to get him up to speed anyway. And then there'll be a cut, and I imagine it'll be Martinez gets cut. And we'll see. I mean, so now the battle is between Martinez and Sudfeld. and see who wins that battle to be the third quarterback on the roster.
Well, we'll find out long term, but I just think the adding of Teddy Bridgewater, there's not just, the fact that they're getting a quality backup. I mean, their best backups in Shaun Hill. It feels like it's a position that they have blown off and gotten away with not having a quality, veteran. Like you want somebody who can win you football games on a Sunday, not somebody who can win you a division. I mean, that's great if you have a backup that can win you a division, but guys who can win you a division typically are starters elsewhere.
It's funny. We have such fond memories of Shaun Hill, the Shaun Hill era.
Yep.
He was 3-7 as a starting quarterback with the Lions.
Yeah, but typically, I think people remember it as it wasn't his fault.
Well, right. I think you're right with that. I mean, because those were some really bad teams. Well, it was actually the one year in 2010. That's when he got all his starts with them when he was 3-7, and then didn't really play a whole lot the last 3 years when he was a Lion. But this is how we remember him. And Bridgewater has much better credentials than Shaun Hill ever had.